Today we're reacting to the most feared kid in U.S. prison. Sometimes I think about the kids that be going to get these life sentences young as hell. I'd be like, damn, that's really messed up, like them being a child. But then you look at their crimes and the things that some of the things that they be doing, and you're like, well, damn.
After murdering somebody.
Whoa! Don't put that on the camera.
It might seem logical to assume that only adults are capable of committing heinous crimes, but children can be equally susceptible to acts that shock and horrify. From a young murderer taunting a victim's family in court, to a killer couple boasting about their recent crime on YouTube, or even two brothers murdering their family members for internet fame, these young offenders have left an indelible mark. In this video, we'll explore some of the most disturbing cases of young criminals in U.S. prisons, detailing the shocking and tragic crimes that shocked the nation. We've got everything from Savona's most infamous kid to the horrifying case that shocked Jacksonville, so stay tuned.
What the fuck?
Number 9. Eric Smith, the young killer from Savona. Eric Smith's story became one of the most infamous cases in U.S. history, captivating the nation in 1993. On the morning of August 2nd, a seemingly normal day in Savona, New York, would forever be marred by an unthinkable tragedy. 13-year-old Eric Smith encountered 4-year-old Derek Roby, who was on his way to a local summer camp. Eric, with a sinister motive, convinced Derek to follow him to a nearby wooded area, claiming it was a shortcut. Once they were alone, Eric brutally attacked Derek, first strangling him to unconsciousness, then smashing a rock onto his head, and finally pouring Kool-Aid from Derek's lunchbox into his open wounds. Derek's mother...
What the fuck? The way this shit just turned. What the fuck? It's crazy too, bro, because as a parent, 4 years old, I guess you're there at a summer camp. That's really young. I'm not putting nothing on the parents here. But maybe the parent of the Eric Smith. But you don't even think of that happening. I'm a parent of a 2-year-old, and like putting myself in the shoes of these people, like from the victim to the other kid, you don't even think of that being a possibility.
Doreen Roby was devastated when her son did not arrive at camp as expected. As the hours passed, a search began, only for Derek's body to be found in the woods later that day, not far from the park. The town of Savona was gripped with fear, unsure of who could have committed such a horrific crime. The shock was compounded when, just a week later, Eric Smith confessed to his mother that he had killed Derek.
Wow.
He was arrested, tried as an adult, and became the youngest person ever to stand trial for murder in New York State at the time. Despite no physical abnormalities being found in Eric's brain function or hormone levels, it became clear that his social struggles, including years of bullying and isolation, may have contributed to his violent outburst. In 1994, he was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to the maximum term for juvenile offenders, 9 years to life in prison. Eric Smith spent nearly 30 years behind bars, with his parole repeatedly denied. Despite his lengthy incarceration, Smith participated in rehabilitation programs and repeatedly expressed remorse for his actions. After several parole hearings, Eric Smith was...
I just can't feel bad for this nigga. Like, I can't feel bad for him, and I don't see this individual and want him to get out. I just can't see that. I know it's been years, it's 30 years now, but I can't feel bad for him.
Was finally granted parole in 2021 and released from prison, though his case continues to be a controversial subject. Number 8. Joshua Phillips, the crime that shocked Jacksonville.
Okay.
Joshua Phillips's case is a grim reminder of how a young life can spiral into tragedy. Convicted of first-degree murder at just 15 years old, Phillips's crime shocked Jacksonville, Florida in 1998.
Now we're talking about a different age, right? 15, I knew exactly what the fuck was going on. I knew exactly you are old enough to know what the fuck you doing. So let's see.
It began on November 3rd, when 8-year-old Maddie Clifton went missing from her neighborhood. She had been playing outside, but when her mother went to check on her, Maddie was nowhere to be found. Her disappearance set off a massive community search, with volunteers and search parties combing the area for any sign of her. Joshua Phillips, then 14, was even involved in the search efforts, showing no signs of the crime he had already committed. It wasn't until November 10th that Maddie's body was discovered, hidden under Joshua's bed. His mother had noticed a wet spot on the floor of his room, and upon further inspection, found Maddie's body hidden there. The shock was immediate, and Phillips was arrested shortly after. Later, he confessed to the murder, detailing the horrific events that led to the child's death. On that fateful day, Phillips had been playing baseball with Maddie, despite his parents being away. According to Phillips, he accidentally hit Maddie in the eye with the ball, causing a painful injury. Fearing the consequences of his father's strict alcoholic behavior,
oh shit,
Phillips panicked and tried to silence Maddie by hitting her with a baseball bat.
What?
When that failed to stop her cries, he escalated the violence, stabbing her multiple times with a knife and ultimately killing her. He then attempted to hide the body.
Man, all right, that's a lot to unpack. That's a lot to unpack. Cause what does I'm trying to put my mind into the brain of. That's a lot to unpack. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I don't know what to say about that. Regardless, I do feel like there should be some type of rehabilitation, jail rehabilitation. I don't know how that looks for somebody getting out, because we also have to look from the perspective of somebody's child was taken from them. So there has to be some type of consequence that is detrimental and strict. You see?
Even using air fresheners to mask the smell as it began to decompose. Phillips was charged as an adult and sentenced to life without parole, avoiding the death penalty due to his age. This tragic crime, committed by a young boy,
it's gotta be that. You gotta go to prison for life. It's just gotta be that.
Left the community in disbelief. Now in his 40s, Joshua Phillips remains incarcerated at the Cross City Correctional Institution, serving out a life sentence for the brutal murder of Maddie Clifton. His case remains a sobering reminder of the darkness that can sometimes take hold of young minds. Number 7. Beaver Brothers, the deadliest crime in Broken Arrow.
Whoa.
The Beaver Brothers case stands as one of the most chilling acts of mass murder in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. On July 22, 2015, Robert, 18, and Michael, 16, executed a violent plan to murder their family members in their home. Their motive was driven by an insatiable desire for fame and notoriety. According to Detective
These was those weird, odd kids in school that you would see sometimes, and obviously they didn't want to carry out an act like this, but these were those same ones where you was like, this nigga got some shit going on.
Russell. The brothers aimed to kill at least 50 people, desperate for media coverage and a Wikipedia page. They had carefully planned the massacre, amassing a collection of knives for the brutal task. The horrifying night began when Michael lured his sister into a bedroom under the guise of showing her something on the computer. Once inside, Robert ambushed her, slashing her throat and stabbing her multiple times. Their mother, April, was then brutally attacked by Robert, who inflicted at least 48 knife wounds, killing her instantly. The brothers continued their rampage, attacking their father, David, who endured 28 stabbings and blunt force trauma, and their 7-year-old brother, Christopher, who suffered 6 stab wounds. Their 18-year-old sister, Victoria, was next, stabbed 18 times in the neck, chest, and arms. In the midst of the chaos, Daniel, just 12 years old, managed to lock himself in a room and call 911. But Michael tricked him into opening the door, pretending to be a victim. Once inside, the brothers stabbed Daniel 9 times. Despite the brutal attack, Daniel's quick thinking played a crucial role in saving his 2 younger sisters. Autumn, 2.
Man. It's not saying nothing like, downplaying any of the other victims. Daniel, real hero, you saved your 2 sisters from these weird-ass, bitch-ass little niggas, bro. I hope these niggas got done the worst way in prison.
And Crystal, 13. The brothers fled the scene, but police soon tracked them down with the help of a canine unit, locating them in a wooded area nearby. Crystal Beaver, a survivor of the attack, identified her brothers as the perpetrators. Robert and Michael were charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of assault with intent to kill.
Look at these bitch-ass niggas, bro. Look at these niggas, bro. Look at them.
They both pled not guilty, but in 2016 and 2018, they were convicted on all charges. Robert received a life sentence without parole.
He's genuinely crazy.
While Michael, due to his age, was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole, though his release is highly unlikely. Number 6.
So what's going on with them in prison, bro?
Heavenly Arroyo, a teenage murderer's cold heart. In a tragic case of teenage violence, Heavenly Arroyo, a 15-year-old girl, ended the life of 68-year-old Ana Vasquez Rodriguez in a brutal and shocking manner. The incident took place on October 6, 2019, at Arroyo's great-uncle's home in Fall River, Massachusetts. The tension in the household had been building for days, and when Arroyo's great-uncle, who was planning a trip to New York, was delayed due to car problems, it pushed Arroyo to a breaking point. Frustrated and agitated, she chose to take out her anger on Ana. Arroyo, who had been living in the house with Ana and her grandson, waited until the house was quiet and then attacked Ana while she lay in bed. Using a knife, she stabbed the elderly woman 70 times.
Yeesh.
The only other person in the house at the time was Ana's grandson, who was playing video games in another room, unaware of the horrific crime taking place just a few feet away. After the murder, Arroyo calmly took a shower, discarded her blood-stained clothes in a nearby dumpster, and then tried to cover up her crime by claiming that a masked man had entered the house and killed Ana. Her story began to unravel when security footage from the Fall River Housing Authority showed her disposing of the clothes, contradicting her earlier statement. Once arrested, Arroyo's demeanor shifted dramatically. In a court appearance, she shockingly smiled and flipped her hair, showing no remorse for her actions. In 2023, Arroyo, now 18, pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in Fall River Superior Court. Judge Rene Dupuis sentenced her to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 19 years. Number 5. Sierra Halseth, a teenager's murderous plot with her boyfriend. In a disturbing case of teenage rebellion and murder, 16-year-old Sierra Halseth and her 18-year-old boyfriend, Aaron Guerrero...
This was that couple in school that was kissing each other and on each other and shit in the hall. You like, oh, y'all get that weird-ass shit on someone.
Executed a gruesome and calculated murder. The victim was Sierra's father, Daniel Halseth, who had been involved in a contentious custody battle with Sierra's mother, Elizabeth Helgelian. Sierra and Aaron's relationship was short-lived but filled with tension, and when their parents found out they planned to run away to Los Angeles, their relationship ended. On April 8, 2021, the young couple purchased a circular saw blades, bleach, lighter fluid, gloves, and a drop cloth, preparing for the murder. The next day, Daniel Halseth's mutilated body was discovered in his garage. The autopsy revealed he had suffered over 70 stab wounds to his head, neck, and torso. In an attempt to hide their crime, the couple stuffed his remains into a sleeping bag and set them on fire, leaving his body unrecognizable. After the murder, Sierra and Aaron recorded a video for YouTube where Aaron announced they were free and enjoying their new life. However, their run from justice was short-lived. Authorities apprehended them in Salt Lake City shortly after the video went public. On May 26, 2022, Sierra and Aaron...
Y'all niggas wanted to be together. Look at this nigga. Y'all wanted to be together so bad, but now y'all can never even be near each other because y'all are in prison for the rest of y'all life.
Pled guilty to multiple charges, including murder, arson, and robbery. Both were sentenced to 22 years to life in prison with the possibility of parole. At their sentencing, Sierra did not express any remorse, while Aaron offered an apology. Their shocking crime and complete lack of regret shocked everyone. Time for the fancy topic. In a shocking and unsettling turn of events, a young boy named Jason, aged only 14, has become one of the most feared figures in a high-security adult prison. Known for his cold demeanor and terrifying reputation, Jason's journey to the prison system has left prison staff, law enforcement, and inmates alike shaken to the core. This case is one that no one could have anticipated. How could a child, still in his early teens, instill fear into some of the most hardened criminals in the United States? This is The Most Feared Kid in U.S. Prison. Jason's backstory is filled with violence and trauma. Raised in a broken home and surrounded by crime, he quickly developed a dangerous temper. It was in his early teens when he was first arrested for violent crimes, which included assaults and robberies. His notorious actions were enough to lead authorities to classify him as a juvenile delinquent, though it was clear from the start that his issues went much deeper than typical behavioral problems. His violent outbursts seemed almost premeditated, and those who witnessed them claimed they were unlike anything they'd ever seen in a child. As Jason continued to escalate in his crimes, it became apparent that traditional juvenile detention facilities were no longer enough to contain him. At 14, his violent tendencies had reached a point where the authorities decided it was time to place him in an adult facility. No one knew exactly what to expect when he arrived, but what followed has left many questioning the safety of the prison system. From the moment Jason stepped into the high-security prison, it was clear that he was not like the other inmates. Despite his small size and youthful appearance, his presence alone seemed to intimidate even the most hardened criminals. Prison guards reported that he had an unnerving ability to stay calm in situations that would provoke most adults. His cold, calculating gaze was enough to make even the toughest men feel uneasy. Jason's tattoos, which appeared far too soon for a boy his age, only added to the air of menace he exuded. The designs, eerie and symbolic, marked him as someone who had lived a life far beyond his years. His reputation grew quickly.
Skip this shit. They talking about what the fuck is this fancy topic? We ain't seeing nobody.
Number 4.
Take us to what those shit we was watching.
Roxana Sikorski, a teen's dark plan to kill her family. Roxana Sikorski, a 15-year-old girl from Plymouth, Michigan.
Are y'all seeing a trend in how these people look and move? And I'm not talking about skin color. I'm talking about the way they look, move, the eeriness in their face.
Became involved in a twisted plot to murder her family under the influence of her much older boyfriend, Michael Rivera. Roxana had been adopted from Poland at the age of 4.
The fuck?
Story, as authorities try to figure out a girl from Plymouth, Michigan, became involved in a twisted plot to murder her family under the influence of her much older boyfriend, and her troubled childhood, marked by abuse, led to her diagnosis of reactive attachment disorder, making it difficult for her to connect emotionally.
I've never heard of that,
others.
yeah? Oh, okay.
This disorder may have made Roxana more vulnerable to manipulation, especially by an older, persuasive
figure. Oh my God,
figure.
bro. Look at this nigga, bro. You can trust anybody that look like this?
Like Rivera. In October 2014, when she was just 15, her relationship with 23-year-old Michael Rivera took a dark turn. Rivera manipulated Roxana into hatching a plan to murder her family, who disapproved of their relationship. He even sent her detailed instructions on how to carry out the crime, specifying vital areas to target. The planning was meticulous, as Rivera clearly exerted control over Roxana, using her vulnerability to manipulate her into believing that the only way to be together was through violence. One night, Roxana attacked her younger brother with a fillet knife, aiming for his neck. Thankfully, he survived the attack. His injuries, while serious, were not life-threatening. but the psychological impact on the family was profound. Her sister's screams alerted their parents, and Roxana fled through a window. She met up with Rivera, and the two of them went into hiding in southwest Detroit, but the police soon tracked them down. The couple was eventually located through a combination of forensic evidence and eyewitness reports. Their capture was a relief to the Sikorski family, but it marked the beginning of a long and difficult legal battle. Roxana was charged as an adult due to the premeditated nature of the crime. Under Michigan law, individuals who commit serious crimes like murder conspiracies can be tried as adults, regardless of their age. In March 2016, a Detroit court sentenced her to 10 to 20 years in prison for her role in the conspiracy to murder her family. Michael Rivera was sentenced to life in prison.
Thank you.
2015. Rivera's role as a manipulative older figure was seen as a key element in the crime, and his actions were considered to be the driving force behind the plot. Roxana's parents were devastated by the court's decision, believing she had been coerced into the crime by Rivera. They also expressed concern about the psychological toll that adult prison would take on their fragile daughter. Roxana's mother, Lorene,
it's got to be heartbreaking as a
her
parent,
daughter
bro.
needed continued psychological help, not imprisonment.
Yeah.
Lorene Sikorski had been a strong advocate for her daughter throughout the trial, highlighting the emotional trauma that had plagued her life since childhood. Despite the horrific nature of the crime, Lorene maintained that Roxana's troubled past and the abusive relationship with Rivera were key factors in her actions. This case sparked a wider conversation about the mental health needs of adolescents involved in violent crime and the ethics of sentencing minors as adults. The debate centered around whether
this
a young
nigga
person,
needs
especially
the
one
bottom
with
of
a
the
history
jail.
of trauma, should be treated the
Pedo
same
murderer.
as an adult in the criminal justice system. Roxana's story highlights the devastating consequences of manipulation and emotional abuse, and it serves as a stark reminder of how vulnerable young people with psychological disorders can be to predatory influences.
Yeah.
Number 3, T.J. Lane, the high school shooter. On February 27,
we think we know about him from the high school shooter video we watched,
the small town of Chardon, Ohio, was left in shock and grief after a deadly shooting at Chardon High School.
Can y'all believe too? In that video, somebody tried to make me feel bad for the school shooters in the video. They tried to make me feel bad for them. Yeah, not happening, bro. If you're watching this,
T.J. Lane, a 17-year-old student at Lake Academy Alternative School, walked into the school cafeteria that morning wearing a sweatshirt with the word "killer" emblazoned on it and armed with a .22 caliber handgun. As students gathered before classes began,
would y'all school allow y'all to wear that? My school would have stopped that nigga so quick and be like, "Yo, you're not wearing. You can't wear that."
Lane opened fire without warning, aiming directly at a table where a group of students sat.
Wow.
The attack killed 3 students, 16-year-olds Daniel Palmatore and Demetrius Hewlin, and 17-year-old Russell King Jr., and left 3 others injured, one of whom was paralyzed for life.
Wow.
Lane had previously attended Chardon High School, but had transferred to the alternative school, where his motive for the shooting remained unclear. Some reports suggested that he may have felt alienated or bullied. However, it
don't matter. Doesn't matter. I can't feel bad for this nigga, bro. But no matter how alienated and bullied he was, nigga come back to the school, start shooting motherfuckers. That ain't got nothing to do with what the fuck going on.
It was never definitively established if his actions were purely the result of bullying, or if there were other contributing factors, such as mental health issues or a history of personal trauma. Lane had been in therapy for emotional and behavioral problems, but it seemed these interventions were insufficient to prevent the tragedy. Additionally, Lane's troubling behavior was noted by classmates and teachers, who later revealed that he had expressed violent thoughts and fantasies.
And then, again, another thing, too, just kind of touching back on, like, anybody that thinks I'm insensitive for not feeling bad for niggas like this, because like, oh, Dior, their mental health and da-da-da. Bro, do you understand that, like, there's so many. These not the only kids in the world that's dealing with mental health shit. Or really bad shit. Shit worse off than what these niggas is going through. That are not doing these things. So just because what makes these, like, they're going through shit, yes. But as so many other people, kids, grown adults, all going through things that are similar or worse, what makes these niggas special? Since they going through shit and they shot the school up? No. There has to be a consequence to that action. And the consequence is that, okay, there are people, there's millions of people around the world that are going through horrible, horrible things. These are the ones that cannot control those things. So, because of that, they have to be somewhere. And because of them taking the lives of others and other people's children, it's prison.
Prior to the shooting, a teacher chased Lane out of the school, and he was eventually apprehended about a mile away from the scene near his car. Investigations revealed that Lane had stolen the gun from his uncle. The gun was a small .22 caliber handgun, often used in smaller scale shootings, but it proved devastating that day. During his trial, Lane showed a shocking lack of remorse. He appeared in court wearing a t-shirt he had made himself with the word "killer" written on it, and taunted the families of his victims with obscene gestures. His callousness and apparent indifference to the gravity of his actions left many people questioning the depths of his emotional and psychological instability. In March 2013, Lane was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. However, in 2014, Lane made headlines again when he, along with 2 other inmates, escaped from the Allen Correctional Institution in Lima, Ohio. After a tense 6-hour manhunt, he was caught. His escape led to his transfer in 2016 to the Southern Ohio Correctional Facility, a maximum security prison, due to the high profile of his crimes and the fear that he posed a continued danger. His escape and the media frenzy surrounding it further demonstrated his disregard for authority and the seriousness of his actions. While friends described Lane as a seemingly normal teenager with reports of bullying and a difficult home life, the question remains, can these struggles justify the brutal actions he took that day?
No.
While it is clear that Lane's life was marked by difficulties, including challenges at home and in school, his choice to commit such a horrific act raises fundamental questions about accountability, mental health.
I know niggas is bullied, parents died in their arms, like, bro, no, bro.
And the role of upbringing in shaping an individual's future. Lane's story serves as a tragic reminder of the potential consequences of untreated emotional and psychological distress, and the deep scars left behind by violence on the victims, their families, and the broader community. Number 2. Alyssa Bustamante, the Missouri teen thrill killer. Alyssa Bustamante's case is one that sent shockwaves through the country when she was revealed as the so-called Missouri teen thrill killer. A seemingly normal 15-year-old girl from Missouri, Bustamante became infamous for the cold-blooded murder of her 9-year-old neighbor, Elizabeth Alton. On October 21, 2009, Alyssa lured Elizabeth into the woods behind their homes, where she brutally killed her by strangling her, slitting her throat, and stabbing her in a shallow grave that Alyssa had previously dug. Alyssa's online presence painted a disturbing picture. On her MySpace and YouTube profiles, she listed killing people and cutting as her hobbies, which reflected her dark and violent fantasies. In her journal, Alyssa wrote about her growing curiosity about murder, revealing chilling details just hours before the killing. She wrote, "I just killed someone. I strangled them and slit their throat and stabbed them. Now they're dead. I don't know how to feel ATM. It was amazing. Once you get over the 'oh my god, I can't do this' feeling, it's pretty enjoyable." After Elizabeth was reported missing, the police quickly zeroed in on Alyssa. Upon searching her home, investigators discovered her journal, which contained a detailed confession to the crime. During questioning, Alyssa initially denied any involvement, but when confronted with her diary, she admitted to the murder. Alyssa was tried as an adult, pled guilty to second-degree murder, and was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after gone wrong. On July 28, 1999, a tragic incident unfolded in Broward County, Florida, when 12-year-old Lionel Tate killed his 6-year-old cousin.
Prison life.
The two children were left alone in the home while Tate's mother rested upstairs. Shortly after, Tate called his mother to report that Tiffany wasn't breathing. When authorities investigated, they found that Tiffany had suffered severe injuries, including a fractured skull, broken ribs, and internal hemorrhaging. The injuries suggested an extreme level of force, and Tate's claim that he had been imitating wrestling moves seemed implausible. Tate, who weighed 170 pounds, claimed he was simply trying to mimic wrestling moves he had seen on television with Tiffany, who was just 48 pounds. However, the defense failed to sway the jury, and in 2001, Tate was convicted of first-degree murder. Under Florida law, the felony murder rule applied, which meant that even if Tate had not intended to kill Tiffany, his actions still led to her death. Judge Joel T. Lazarus explained that the severity of the injuries in the act of committing them on a child was enough for a first-degree murder conviction. Tate's case sparked significant controversy, as many believed that a 12-year-old should not face life in prison without parole. In 2004, an appeals court overturned his life sentence due to a failure to assess his mental competency properly. Instead, Tate was offered a plea deal, admitting to second-degree murder in exchange for a reduced sentence of 1 year of house arrest and 10 years of probation. However, his legal troubles continued. In 2005, Tate faced charges of armed robbery, and in 2006, he violated his probation. He was eventually sentenced to 10 years for robbery, and in 2008, he entered a no-contest plea to robbery charges. Tate is currently serving his sentence at the Charlotte Correctional Institution. How should these child killers be?
Get this shit off my screen. Y'all let me know what y'all think, bro. Like the video, so comment up. Benjamin channel. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm great fan. I'm gone, man. ADD, let it do it.